All right, so today our group will be talking to you on the agriculture's impacts on the environment. So first, I'd like to get into the issue at hand. So as the world population continues to grow, agriculture is faced with supplying food, using limited resources, and keeping land viable for future generations. However, farming has impacted natural resources over decades by placing a strain on resources, converting natural habitats, and introducing new chemicals into the environment. This has clearly damaged landscapes as well as wildlife areas and biodiversity. So firstly, we'll be looking into the negative impacts of agriculture on the environment. So my name is Nelson, and I'm a conservation biology major. That gives you a bit of my background. And I'll be talking to you about eutrophication. So what eutrophication is it's when fertilizer runoff, which contains phosphorus and nitrogen, seeps into lakes and rivers. And while both of these chemicals are natural in small amounts, the large amount present in fertilizer causes what's known as an algae bloom. And this is basically when all the plankton in the water photosynthesize the nutrients at such a rate that the algae really takes off and causes the water to turn this kind of sickly green, clumpy, like turns into a mess. And what this does is it actually deoxygenates the water, making it impossible for fish and other aquatic life to survive. In addition to the nutrients that enter the water, other harmful chemicals enter the water, making it unsafe for human consumption and also not safe to swim in. So eutrophication happens all over the world, but in Minnesota alone, 35% of the bodies of water found here are eutrophic at some degree. A good example of where this can be seen nearby is in the Minnesota River. About 92% of the Minnesota River is lined by farms. And because of this, the water has become incredibly polluted over the course of many storms and cases of fertilizer runoff. So many of the species that live in the river are at risk now due to deoxygenated and polluted water. And while this seems pretty bleak, there's actually a fair amount of things you can do to help. One of the main ones is to provide infrastructure that can limit the amount of nutrients in the water. So one way to do this is by planting vegetation along the riverbank. And what this does is allows the vegetation to soak up most of the nutrients before it enters the water. A more ultimatum or more effective solution may just to be to stop using fertilizers or harmful fertilizers altogether. However, this wouldn't be very fair to the farmers as it would ultimately cut their yields. So we need to figure out more sustainable and solutions that are profitable for everyone. So here's an example of what fertilizer runoff looks like. And on the next slide is a picture of what its effects are.
Agriculture is a major contributor to, sorry, I need to introduce myself. Hi, my name is Shannon and I'm a nutrition major. Agriculture is a major contributor to greenhouse gas emissions, carbon dioxide, methane gas, and nitrous oxide. It consumes a lot of natural resources, even more than the manufacturing, construction, and transportation sectors, according to the challenge of feeding the world sustainably. Not only does it use plenty of fossil fuels, crop production and raising livestock require the clearing of natural habitats. Increasing carbon dioxide emissions lead to increased atmospheric temperatures. Many components of the food system and human diets, such as fruit and vegetable crops and livestock, are especially vulnerable to drastic changes to their environments. According to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the increase in atmospheric carbon dioxide leads to degrading productivity, species composition, biogeochemistry, and quality and quantity of forage available for herbivores. The increase in carbon dioxide levels also lead to crops growing faster, but lowers the nutritional value. Methane gas comes from the ruminant livestock, rice cultivation, and burning of manure and biomass. Nitrous oxide comes from the extensive use of fertilizers. In climate change 2014 mitigation of climate change, even if all non-agriculture related sectors stop the use of fossil fuels, the greenhouse gas emissions would still exceed the Paris Agreement limit. With the use of monoculture, biodiversity in the agriculture ecosystem has drastically decreased. With climate change, agriculture is affected by the migration of crop production in order to maximize profit and productivity. So when the crops are moved to be produced in a different environment, the nearby animal and plant species will be greatly affected. Soy, corn, and wheat are crops that have been moved to warmer climates, and their high production have caused historically low prices, which brings little revenue for the farmers as they rely on subsidies with less governmental support for conservation. Pesticides and herbicides used will change the biodiversity in certain animal species, such as pollinators and insects that may serve benefits in the future. Many of these species now face extinction or are already extinct. So there is a great need to change our agriculture system to a more sustainable approach rather than the usual business-like operations on our environment.
So now we will be focusing on some of the positive effects of agriculture on the environment. We know agriculture won't be going away anytime soon, so farmers and all those involved in food production have found new ways to utilize their land in response to the previously mentioned issues. And some of those methods generate positive outcomes for natural resources and the environment. My name is Sarah, and I'm studying agricultural and food business management. I have experience in agriculture, so I've been able to see firsthand some of these positive impacts, and I've done lots of research over the years. One of these agricultural benefits for the environment is the use of genetically engineered crops. I think this infographic does a great job of showing what life could be like without them. This is from Purdue University. The introduction of commercial GMOs in the 1990s has proven extremely valuable for farmers and the land. As the US Food and Drug Administration points out, the prevalent characteristics of genetically modified crops are resistance to insect damage, tolerance to herbicides, and resistance to plant viruses. As some may know, a higher natural resistance to insects means that farmers don't have to apply as many pesticides or chemicals to protect plants. Since 1999, growing genetically modified varieties has decreased the application of pesticides by 8.2%, according to Michael Stubbins, which in turn lowers the risk for chemical runoff into the environment. With herbicide-resistant crops, farmers do not have to till the soil to combat weeds as they did before, which has natural benefits that Angelica will touch on later. Finally, disease-resistant crops help ensure a more stable and reliable food supply each year. This way, less land is needed for growing crops because the probability of them surviving and being productive is much higher. In fact, all of these characteristics of GMOs allow land stewards to do more and more with less and less resources, which is extremely important for having a sustainable food supply going forward. Stebbins, who actually works with the Council for Biotechnology Information, says that over the last 20 years, GMOs have helped increase crop yields by 22%. Conservation of land and reduction of pesticides from GMO use are relatively well-known benefits, but another positive impact of agriculture includes the use of corn as ethanol. This is a renewable fuel source that can replace petroleum-based gasoline, which is a major source of carbon dioxide being released into the environment. Kurt Thelen with Michigan State University Extension writes that estimates for carbon dioxide released per car per year in the United States are at about 6 tons. Think of all the cars just in the Twin Cities, let alone the entire country. Therefore, corn ethanol is an advantageous source because it can be thought of as recycled carbon instead of new carbon being displaced from the Earth's surface, as it is with gasoline and other fossil fuels. So this is just another example of the positive implications that agriculture can have in regards to natural resources.
I'm Angelica Mears, and my major is agricultural food and business management. One of my passions is farm productivity and sustainable operation. Tillage and crop rotations are great ways to increase sustainable agriculture. There are many different ways for farmers to till land, but there are 3 main ones that are beneficial to sustainable agriculture. Tillage is defined as the turning of the soil. Conventional tillage is a 2-step process that uses plows to disrupt and turn the soil, followed by a secondary tillage that soothes the soil's surface. Conventional tillage can increase porosity and loosen soil, allowing for good air exchange and root growth, and it is also an effective way to incorporate manure into the soil. Conventional tillage is beneficial to the yield of the crops and also to the nutrients levels in the crops planted in the soil. Conservation tillage is an approach that can create viable levels of soil disturbance, but usually leaves 30% or more of the crop residue on the soil surface. Crop residue is the material left in the field after a crop has been harvested. Crop residue protects the soil from the impact of the rainfall. It enhances the soil's organic matter levels and water infiltration and decreases soil and nutrient movement. Conservation tillage is used in about 40% of the crop acreage in the United States. The conservation tillage approach is possible because of developments in equipment that can plant the seeds directly into residue and the development of herbicides for post-emergent control of weeds. No-till is an approach in which specialized planters with disc openers slice through crop residue and precisely deposit the seed at a desired depth. The seed is covered in the soil and the soil is firmed around the seed. No-till, which involves minimal crop residue disturbance, also minimizes soil erosion and maximizes organic soil matter and soil water conservation. By choosing the best choice of tillage for the soil, farmers can alter the physical conditions of the soil, reduce the need for weed control, and save on water and other natural resources, helping make agriculture more sustainable. Crop rotation is a planned sequence of different crops grown over the years on the same land. Crop rotation varies in length and diversity of crop species. There are many different crop rotation patterns, and they can be altered to fit any land or climate differences. In the Midwest, we most commonly see corn-soybean rotation. This is a 2-year rotation in which a farmer uses crop rotation to produce 2 high-value crops. Rotating corn and soybeans allows farmers to use less nitrogen fertilizer when growing corn. That benefits the environment and allows farmers to save on input costs. Other advantages of crop rotation are weed control, disease, and insect control, increase in soil fertility and soil quality, reduced soil erosion, and less risk. Corn-soybean rotations also have resulted in higher corn and soybean yields per acre than crops that is just planted year after year. By implementing small changes in farming like tillage and crop rotation, we can increase yields for farmers and also increase the sustainability of American agriculture.
All right, so my name is Elizabeth Mansfield, and I am an agricultural and food business management major, and I'm going to be talking about biodynamic agriculture, which is one method used today that helps to improve sustainability in agriculture. In 1924, after various farmers raised concerns about the degradation of soil due to the constant use and chemical fertilizers, Austrian philosopher Rudolf Steiner taught an agricultural course, giving a series of lectures on farming that would eventually become biodynamic farming. Biodynamic farming is a form of alternative agriculture that takes an ecological and ethical approach to farming, food, and gardening. Traditional farming, which includes both conventional and organic farming, erodes soil quality over time with grazing livestock, crops, and other nutrient-draining vegetation. Biodynamic agriculture offers a way to maintain and restore ecological balance and organic harmony to your farm, ground, or garden, making efficient use of your farm's natural energy. Biodynamic farming practices and farming methods includes avoiding chemical soil fertilizers to enhance soil fertility, consideration of all biological organisms, diverse crop rotation, cover crops, green animal manures, as well as meeting certain guidelines for perennial and annual planting. Farmers are encouraged to manage their farm as one living organism where cultivated species intertwine and support each other's health. This includes raising animals on a farm in a way that helps replenish soil fertility and enhance plant growth. One of the building blocks of biodynamics is the high biodiversity of plants, animals, and beneficial insects. In biodynamic agriculture, each farm or holding has its own identity and is a self-sustaining organism in its own right, where its diverse activities and habitats strengthen and balance each other. The goal, therefore, for any biodynamic farm is thus to minimize external inputs, not stretch the land beyond its natural capacity, and for human activity to put back more than is taken out. The aim is resilience and regeneration. Biodynamics is a worldwide movement practiced on every continent. There are currently more than 5,000 farms worldwide in 54 countries. The UK is experiencing a renewed interest in biodynamics, with more farms converting to biodynamic status every year. Currently, there are 98 certified biodynamic enterprises, though the total number of farms practicing biodynamic methods is greater, especially among smaller farms.
Hey everyone, my name is Kush and I'm a pre-vet student, and today I'll be talking about two of the many methods that have been put into action in modern society of agriculture in order to improve sustainability. These include applying an integrated pest management system and adopting agroforestry practices. Today, the implementation of a range of methods, such as mechanical and biological controls, are systematically and periodically utilized by farmers in order to keep pest controls under control while minimizing the effects of pesticides such as DDT. A biological control of pesticides that can serve as an example of an integrated pest management system could be the applications of various irrigation practices in order to keep pests under control. Mechanical controls could be the placement of traps for rodents that would potentially damage crops or other animals who might potentially damage crops. The adoption of a multitude agroforestry practices also serves as a vital cornerstone in the enhancement of sustainability practices. Agroforestry is defined by the process of blending trees and shrubs into crop and animal farming system. Windbreaks, as you can see on the slide, riparian forest buffers, and alley cropping, all shown on the slide, are a few practices of agroforestry that have been put into effect. By implementing these practices, farmers are immediately able to provide shade and shelter that protects plants, animals, water resources, and potentially the upbringing of surplus food and crops. Windbreakers are essentially linear rows of plants and trees and shrubs designed to provide an environmental and community benefits. This particular design serves as a primary role in slowing the wind to create an optimal condition for the growth of soil, crops, livestock, and people. Riparian forest buffers are the area that is adjacent right next to the body of water. These contain a mixture of plants and trees that deliver high benefits, including filtration of nutrients, pesticides, and animal waste from agricultural land runoff. They have also been noted for providing a wildlife habitat and corridors for terrestrial organisms and protecting the cropland and downstream communities from flood damage. Recently, riparian forest buffers have been an important player in landscape screen green infrastructure within plants because of their ability to serve as a variety of functions in the environment, as well as the creation of a greener network across communities that benefit people and wildlife as well. Last but not the least, alley cropping is the planting of rows of trees or shrubs to create alleys within which each agricultural or horticultural crop is placed. This system changes over time as the trees mature, are influenced by light, water, and nutrients regimes in the field, all for the purpose to provide additional functions that support and enhance their operations or from a farming transition to another.
So some things that you can do to incorporate more sustainable practices into your life are listed on this slide. As you can see, you can grow your own produce or plant a garden, purchase locally grown products, plant trees where you can, and look to use renewable energy sources. These can help reduce the cost of food transportation, such as time and pollution, promote soil health, combat erosion, and of course, reduce our carbon footprint on the earth. Farmers have adapted their methods and practices with sustainability at the forefront. But of course, the task of large-scale food production is a constantly changing matter that will require collaboration across nations and cultures. Small changes at the individual, household, industry, corporate, and government levels can have a large ripple effect, which is perhaps the most realistic and easy way that sustainability can be made a greater focus. And here are our sources. Thank you.